Gaddy 5000, you there, my man?
Check.
All right, dude. In the
You got me
flesh.
loud and clear.
I sure do, man.
All
We were
right.
hoping to see your shining smile this morning.
Yeah, I'm gonna save you from that one. It was early morning, let's say.
Oh, geez. Okay, that's fair. Well, thank you for being here, man. I'm just going to give the rest of the team just 2-3 minutes here to get jumping on to the call, and then we'll get things going.
Sounds like a plan.
Morning, Dennis. Morning, Donna. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
All right. Hey,
how you doing?
I needed to follow up with you after this call or sometime today, just if you reach out to me on Slack.
Is that for me, JD?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with you with that situation we ran into last week with the appointments and whatnot. Just wanted to talk to you about that a little bit more in detail and offer you some resolve to that situation that we unknowingly created.
Okay.
Cool. All right, Gatlin. So I prepared the team. Hope I didn't oversell you. I've yet to oversell you, but I prepared the team and told them that you're going to work with us on describing what the typical client avatar kind of looks like, because especially for those folks that are new to Final Expense, never sold us before, just giving us a little insight and background on who it is that we're talking to. So things like their environment, where they're living, their house, their apartment, their situation, their, just kind of any background there that you can use, like that helps you kind of or speak to those individuals based on that information. And then also, I also threw out there that your Mr. Trinity Family Benefit, that is our lead carrier here in this program as well. And so if you want to go into the details about why you like that program or that particular carrier so much, how you use it, if there's any tips or tricks or watch outs like albuterol inhalers and things of that nature, things that you maybe specifically say during the interview. I know that we get the advantage for face-to-face by shaking our head yes or no, like that's kind of our secret advantage that we don't have here for telephone. So any tips or tricks specific to that, and then lastly, any advice or tip, or probably just some war stories or some fun things to tell people to scare them straight, keep them out of the streets, and keep them on the phone, and tell them why their job is so good doing that. So we are a minute past the hour. I'll just give them 1 or 2 more minutes. I've got several people that are kind of jumping into the call right now, and then we'll get the show on the road. All right. Okay, let's see. Who else do we have here? We've got Mr. John Cobb. Good morning, John.
Present and accounted for. Good morning, everyone.
And Miss Shantina, good morning. Good morning. Hang on. Marianella. Okay, cool. All right, and I believe that I have, we've got the recording on as well. So if you guys hear anything during the call that you find interesting or want to refer back to, I'll be sharing the recording on Slack later today. So there we go. Got more people. Yeah, see, these folks got to get with the schedule, man. We're trickling in here late after the hour. All right, that's okay.
the coffee machine was down. That's what it was. You know, they gotta fix
Yeah,
the coffee machine first. Yeah,
replace the water in the water cooler.
exactly.
There's a
The
lime in the
dog just happened to start barking at the wrong time.
Oh, geez. Okay. There we go. We've got okay, cool. We've got enough folks to be dangerous here. We're gonna go ahead and get the show started here. So good morning, everybody. Thank you guys for being here. So as teased out previously mentioned, I have my very good friend in the business here joining us this morning. If nothing else, to take time out of his day of a busy schedule of closing deals, final expense, and Medicare. But also to earn himself a little bit of free Thai food later today for lunch, because Gatlin, his name is Gatlin, like the gun, and he is local to me here in Colorado Springs, and he's actually my personal mentor, my secret weapon, as it were. When I came out of the gate firing on all four cylinders on my first full-time week in the field and selling, I don't know, it was like 2 or 3 in the first day, and then I think it was 8 or 9 by the end of the first week. And what they didn't know was I actually had a 10-year veteran riding out in the car with me, helping me close deals and overcome objections and doing all those things. So I owe him much gratitude and debt from all the assistance he's given me and mentorship in my career thus far. And so I wanted to bring him on here to chat with you guys today a little bit more about final expense. I think that he provides, even though that even though that face-to-face is going to be different than telesales in a lot of ways. However, what we're missing as telesales agents is getting into the inside of the client. Who are these people? I feel like knowing the client or the person that we're selling is vitally important. Like, just like we talked to Oscar and talking about the leads and how they fill it out and where they're coming from, how to approach and attack them. Gatlin's going to give us the additional insight here as far as, again, who we're talking to, what the situation's like, you know, the spouse, or all the different things that he deals with on a regular basis. In addition to that, Gatlin is, if not number one of the by far leaders in selling Trinity Family Benefits. And again, that's doing that face-to-face. He's on track to hit the top tier. What do we call that? The vacation, the award, the trip that you get to go on there with selling that product. And so much applause to him for achieving that. And then lastly, if you guys were here earlier, I just wanted to see if we can squeeze out any fun war stories from him that can scare you guys straight, keep you out of the streets, as we say, keep you on the phone and convince you that you don't want to go out there. Trust me, I've done it. He's done it. And we're going to get into some of those details. One kind of funny side story here is the reason why I actually go by JD for selling insurance. My first name is Jason, but because I was riding out with Gatlin and he had a really cool name, yeah, my name is Gatlin, like the gun, and it always it makes it stick in their head a little bit more. I'm like, well, I need something fun. So middle initial being D is like, oh, well, I'll be JD. So when I go in the house, it's JD like Jack Daniels. And so when we would go into a house together and introduce ourselves, it was Gatlin like the gun and JD like Jack Daniels, just to try to help, warm the client up, build a little bit of rapport right off the bat, and just kind of make it fun for us as well at the same time. So just a little side note, if I haven't told you that story before. But anyways, once again, Gatlin, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day to be here with us.
Yes. Do you hear me well?
We sure do, my friend. We sure do. And Gatlin is kind of like Deadpool. He'd rather not show his face here. He's going to be audio only, but that's okay.
Yes,
we'll use our imagination.
It keeps the distractions down to a minimum, I promise. I appreciate all the kind words. It was too long of an intro for someone like me, but it's okay. I'll take it humbly. I'll take it. Kind of just tell you who I am. Gatlin Traub. I started selling final expense insurance in San Antonio, Texas back in 2013. I was a 22-year-old kid fresh off of spinal injury from a car accident. I knew nothing about sales or insurance. And what I did know is I didn't want to be homeless, and I knew I had a good work ethic. So as long as I could get a good system in place, I'd be all right. And what I started off doing was parking in neighborhoods and knocking on every door of the neighborhood and asking if they wanted to talk about life insurance. And I don't know if anybody here has ever done that, but I would 0 out of 10 recommend it. I didn't make a single sale for weeks. And I was doing this before my leads came in, because back then it was you placed an order, you waited 5 weeks, and your leads started trickling in 5 weeks later. And I had 4 weeks of no leads. And so at the time, I wasn't privy to the Facebook or I don't even know if they had the Facebook leads in 2013, to be honest with you, but I definitely didn't know about them, or the telephone leads or anything like that. So I literally just was like, I'm going to go out and get my knuckles bruised until I get enough no's that when my leads start coming in, I'm going to be a hardened salesman by then. And sure enough, that's what happened. I'd never made a single sale out prospecting, but I got maybe 40 to 50 presentations in, and that's what I was really looking for, was to get my presentation down. If you're new, if you're early on in your sales career and you're wondering why things aren't going well, you need to look at your presentation. You need to have someone else look at your presentation, and that will tell you a lot of the ways you can get better and make more sales. Record it, watch it yourself, record it, send it to a mentor. Have them give you honest feedback. Don't take the feedback bad, because everybody does terrible when they're recording themselves in a presentation. Even if I did it right now, it wouldn't be wonderful. And so it's uncomfortable. But if you can't see what you're doing wrong, if you can't have someone else tell you what you're doing wrong, you're never going to get better. So that's one of my little tidbits to start. If you're wondering why you're not making enough sales, the first thing you need to do is record your presentation. But that's why I did it. I got my presentation down. I started getting my leads in. Very quickly became rookie of the year for the organization we were with. Once I got good enough at it, I said it's I'm going to be all over the place, so bear with me. But Jason kind of told me to tell y'all what these houses look like that we go into, and it'll give you an idea of the next part of the story. But most of our people are low income, fixed income. The very poorest of people in our economy is 90% of our customers. So they don't have air conditioning, a lot of them. They don't have the luxuries that most people have. And in San Antonio, Texas, in August, when it's 110 outside with 120% humidity without having air conditioning, I was almost having heat strokes while giving a 10-15 minute presentation while these people are locked up in a house with no AC, no fans, and chain smoking cigarettes right there in front of you. It's just, I was either going to throw up, pass out, or all the above. And so I very quickly realized that I need to get north. And so once I made enough sales, felt comfortable enough doing it, I packed up everything, me, my girlfriend, my brother, my 2 dogs, my cat, and 3 cars and a U-Haul, and drove up to Colorado Springs, Colorado. And I've been here for over 10 and a half years now. And because when the clients don't have air conditioning and don't have the amenities, it's still not too bearable. I'm not going to have a heat stroke like I would if I was in San Antonio. And so that kind of speaks to our clientele. But the most important thing I can tell you, I've been doing this for 11 years, and there isn't somebody in any economic level that can't be a client for final expense. I might have said that weirdly, so I'm going to re-say that. Anyone on earth can be a final expense client. You just got to find out why they requested the information, or looking into it, or wanting the information. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest part of the presentation process, is figuring out their why. Most people in low income, the vast majority of our clientele, the lowest of low income, just want to make sure they have something when they pass away. They want to make sure that their Social Security check of $800 a month ain't going to pay for their cremation. They want a $5,000 check to come on that day, and they can afford to pay $20, $30, $40 a month to do that. And that's how they ration their funds. But I've also sat down with people who have $1 million in assets and just want to leave a policy for a grandchild that they like, or they want to leave a little something extra outside of their funds. There's not always a rhyme or a reason for it. It doesn't always have to make sense to you or them. You just got to figure out what triggered them to request you to call them, to give them this information, and then really harp on it, bring it up. All right, Miss Johnson, you had told me that when you pass away, you want a cremation. And as of right now, your bank account's sitting at 13 cents and you don't have the ability to pay for that. And you don't want to leave that burden onto your daughter, Susan. So if you want this $5,000 policy, that's $30 a month. You can pick the day you want it set up on, and you're going to make sure that as of that day, Susan doesn't have to worry about paying for a cremation when that comes. Or I want to make sure that my bills are paid off. Yes, you definitely. And you just bring it up throughout your presentation, throughout the sales process. If you get to an objection, I want to think about it. Yes, ma'am. I understand. We all have to think about our decisions. But let me ask you something right now. If you were to pass away next month and I was able to bring Miss Susie a check for $5,000 to help pay off that debt, do you think she's going to be upset with you or me that you did this? No. All right. Well, let's just get the application started, see if you even get approved, and we'll go from there. And so that's when you're talking to your clientele, you never assume, you never judge. The best thing you can do is figure out the why of their call, the why of the reason they want the coverage, and then just keep bringing it up throughout 3 or 4 times throughout the sales process to really help them remember why they're getting it. But yes, our clientele, they love the little things. And so that's the other part. It's you find their why, but you also find what they enjoy. And you can do that just easily with, fact finding. Hey, did you see the game last week? If you're local, say, whatever your local team or whoever you're calling their local team is, that's something I do. I'm a sports guy, so I know, if someone's in Chicago, I'm calling them. The Bears won that first Hall of Fame game during the preseason. Are you excited about that? Team's looking good. Or, if you're calling someone in Cleveland, oh man, how could LeBron leave y'all like that? You find something that they connect with in whatever area that you're calling, and that makes it a theme that you're not a bot. You're not some guy in Pakistan or in the Philippines or wherever the call centers can be, and who don't have a touch of the culture, who don't have a touch feel for anything outside of the script that's in front of them. The more you can I love scripts. My presentation I do today is the same presentation I did 11 years ago because I just burned it into my brain. It was a script, but now I don't have to look at the script. It's burned in my brain. I have the ability to, as you can tell, get off base and go off course and not follow a certain system. And it allows me to separate myself from all the other people who don't care to take the time to talk about a sports team or talk about the Olympics that are on or talk about whatever's going on in the area that you have 2 cents about. That you can just, it doesn't take long. You don't go into a 5-10 minute conversation about it. You just literally are bringing up something that's outside of this. Most people don't want to talk about death. Most people don't want to talk about final expenses. Most people don't want to talk about how they can't afford to die or pay for their final expenses. So the more that you can be on a different topic, a happier topic, get the more rapport built, not only is it going to be an easier sales process, but it's more likely they're going to stay on the books because they're going to be like, this guy was actually a good guy, or this lady was actually a lady who cared, who didn't just want to get my checkbook out of my purse. They actually cared to figure out why I wanted, and they cared to talk about my dogs that were yapping in the background, or the cat that you keep hearing meowing every 2 seconds, or whatever cue you can get from these people to create a rapport or a conversation that's kind of outside of the bubble. The more they're going to open up and the more they're going to trust you and be willing to give you the social security number and give you the bank accounts, because you're not just a bot reading the screen. And so Those are
Yeah.
just a few things about our clientele that I would touch on next.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant, Gatlin, and thank you for that context. And I 100% agree with you. And I feel like that's one area that I've noticed, kind of across the board for our team that we can improve on is when we're asking those discovery questions. So, do you have any coverage right now? Like, no. Instead of like, okay, and then just moving to the next question, like, oh wait, oh wow, you don't have any coverage? Like, oh my goodness. Okay, and then so why are you looking right now? Like, what has happened? Like, just really genuinely caring to hear about them. One kind of common the phrase that I always kind of repeat for our team is when you're talking to these people on the or anybody in general, just in life in general, whether it's sales or otherwise, what is everybody's favorite subject to talk about? Like themselves. Like it's always about themselves. And even if it's not, if you're not a sports guy or gal, you're not tuned into that, and you're like, okay, I see that you're in, I don't know, San Francisco, California. I've never been to San Francisco. I know nothing other than the Golden State. But like, I have nothing to bring up related to that. Like, wow, how's the weather there? Like, that's just kind of the generic one. But like, oh, okay, well, how long have you been there? Most people have made some type of a move, like at some point in their life, and like, oh, okay, I've been here for 12 years. Well, were you before that? And just kind of, again, just kind of getting the conversation going, just so that way you don't sound like a telemarketer and you actually sound like a friend. Like I use this a couple of times in personal consults with some of our agents where, like, I want you talking to them in a tonality that's so friendly and warm that they're literally pulling back away from the phone, like, wait, who is this guy? Like, do I know you? Like, because I want it to feel like it's an old friend calling them. It shouldn't feel like a transaction. It shouldn't feel like a business professional consultation. It should feel like a friend, family, relative. Like, oh, hey, buddy, yeah, it's me, JD. I'm just here to talk to you again about that boring life insurance. Like, just adding the life and personality. And again, like Gatlin said, getting to know the person, getting those details, get them to speak about themselves, because when they talk about themselves, it actually turns out that they'll like you more, and people, again, buy from people that they like and trust. And so that's why those things that Gatlins are talking about are so important for us to do.
Yeah,
Cool.
and I mean, it doesn't have to be sports. Like I said, it could be anything. And if, like you said, if you get it out of them, do you have any pets in the house? Any dogs I got to be worried about, and things like that? They're going to open up. Do you have any kids? A lot of times, if they don't have kids, speaking from personal experience, they'll say no, but I have fur babies, and then you just run with that. And so that's kind of a big one for me. It's, do you have kids? No. Okay. Do you have any type of fur babies? And if they don't do that, okay, well, what are some hobbies you like to do in your area? Are you a foodie? My favorite's Thai. I go 3 times a week. You can really roll it into anything and keep going with it down the list. But the key important thing is, when you're doing these fact-finding things, is to write down the answer in big, bold letters and circle it so you can bring it up a few times throughout the conversation. That's the whole purpose. If you're not going to bring up the fact-finding things throughout the sales process, there's no point in even asking it, because that's the whole purpose of it, is you're trying to bring to the forefront the reason they are looking for this type of coverage, the things that make them happy and bring the good chemicals to the brain to help make the sales process, make the resistance a little bit easier.
Yeah, and my favorite place to bring it up, if I hadn't yet, if we're kind of moving through things like swiftly as it sometimes goes, if you're just not getting much out of them, like if I'm starting to fill out the application, or if I'm using insurance toolkits and entering their information, and I'm kind of waiting, there's kind of like dead air, that's when I love to bring up those conversations. So what kind of pets do you got? Like, oh man, my cat's kind of bothering me this morning. You ever had a cat? Like, and just kind of interjecting that conversation at those, what would normally be kind of like quiet times of the conversation. So yeah, love it.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yeah.
See if we got anything so far. Everybody on board? Everybody awake? Everybody got their coffee on board? Gatlin and I are on mountain time, which still 9 a.m. It's coffee time for me. Cool. Everybody seems to be tracking along. Perfect. You're getting some applause and whatnot. So if you can't see that on your screen, Gatlin, just FYI.
So I'll kind of talk about Trinity Family Benefit Life for a little bit. I've won Agent of the Year for them 3 years out of my 10-year career. I got second and third a few times in that 10-year span, but I've kind of eased off the gas on that as a goal for a while. I still like to win their incentive trips and things like that, but other life priorities have stepped up a little bit. But they're my favorite company. I've been doing this for 11 years. I've been contracted with all the big names, all the little names, and everything in between, the names that no longer exist. And from 90% of all my business goes to Trinity and Family Benefit Life, just because they're the best to work with from an agent standpoint. Every time I have issues, concerns, questions, they're always easy to help. Whenever I make a mistake that needs to be corrected, they try to make it as easy as possible for me to get that corrected and get it issued and all that stuff. They used to be the top lenient on underwriting. They've gotten a little bit stricter over the years with a few of the underwriting things like the schizophrenia and the diabetic neuropathy, and they're a real stickler. I know Jason wanted me to kind of speak to how I prepare clients to do the phone interview. And a lot of times I don't know what he was talking about the head nod thing. I've never heard of a head nod thing. I don't know what that is. But what I always do, even when I'm selling to people out of state over the phone, which I have been doing more recently, is I always prepare a client for the phone interview. And I mean, I prepare them 3 times, and it's annoying. Bear with me 1 minute. All right, can you hear me,
Yes, sir.
Jason? All right, sorry about that. So I always prepare the client for the interviews, and the way I do that is I start from the beginning of the interview to the end of the interview. I go, all right, Miss Johnson, and this is after we've decided on the plan. This is after I've gotten all of her information. I say this. I go, Miss Johnson, we are about to do the phone interview. During this process, I'm going to get the company on the phone, and I'm going to give them all your information that you just gave me. And then they're going to confirm your information with you. After that, they're going to do a set of authorizations. Those authorizations are all just asking to get your permissions to do the application, such as getting your health and prescription information, such as authorizing them to make a report, such as getting a voice signature. After they get your personal information, if you hear them asking you for an authorization, the answer is going to be yes, Miss Johnson, because they just need your authorizations to do this application over the phone and tell us if you're approved. Okay, does that make sense to you? Perfect. After these authorizations are made, they're going to ask you your height and your weight. You told me it was this and this. After that, they're going to say, have you had any weight loss in the last year? Which you told me was this. After that, you're going to hear, have you used tobacco, nicotine, or marijuana, or any other of those products? Which you told me the answer was no. And then once you hear that tobacco question, you know that every question after that is a health question, which we've already been over and you answered no to. Once those medical questions are over, Miss Johnson, and you've answered no to all of them, if they have any prescriptions at all that they have questions about, they're going to ask you. No, ma'am, you don't have to tell them your prescriptions. They're going to ask you the ones that they're concerned about. So from what you told me, you take a little blood pressure medication like a lisinopril or a atorvastatin or whatever those pills are. If they ask you about them, just say it was for blood pressure. No, ma'am, they don't want to care if you don't take it anymore. No, ma'am, they don't care if you switch to a different one. They don't care if you never took it at all. They just want to know what it was given to you for. So if they ask you about this prescription, all I want you to say is blood pressure. If they ask you about this pain pill, all I want you to say is it's for pain. Not that you don't take it anymore, not that it wasn't ever given to you. I don't want you arguing with any of these questions that they're asking, because they don't, it's not a fight. They just need to write something down because it's on their screen. So if they ask you about this pill, it's for blood pressure. This pill, it's for pain. But the most common thing I get, Miss Johnson, I've been doing this 11 years. I've been thousands of applications. The most common surprise I get is those dang inhalers. It doesn't matter if you had allergies. It doesn't matter if you got the flu, if you had a cold, if you got COVID, if you had a case of the pneumonias. They don't care what it was given to you for or why. They're just going to ask, what was this inhaler for? And if you're unsure of it, most of the time, doctors just give it to you for the common cold. So if they ask you, just say it was given to me for a cold. I never had to take it because you said you never took it and you never filled it. They just gave it to you in case you needed it. And if they ask you if you take it more or less than once a week, you told me you don't take it at all, so answer it less. If they ask you, did you take it more or less than once a month? You told me you didn't take it at all, say less than that. And then the last question they're going to ask is, have you had any emergency room visits due to that complication, which you said you didn't even need to take it? So the answer would be no to that. The second biggest medication that has recently popped up during these things is the nasal spray. With the opioid epidemic that is going on in a lot of states, in my state for sure, if they get an opioid, they get a nasal spray. And it doesn't matter if they want it or not, if they used it or not. And so if you see somebody who's dealing with chronic pain, that's a big one you need to prepare them for. They're going to ask you, have you been given this inhaler for drugs or alcohol abuse or what? You need to say it was given to you because of your back pain or neck pain. You've never had to take it. And answer it truthfully. And so you're not, and in no situation would I ever tell you to tell a client to lie. You get the information from the client, you record it as accurately as possible, and then you be aggressive in preparing them to answer it the way they answered it with you. So there's no shock and awe, no surprise, because they get read a fraud notice right before all these questions are asked. So it's fresh on their mind. That's why you want to be very sure. I asked you these questions. You answered them honestly. I'm preparing you to get through this application the best way you can, answering it the best way you can while still being honest. And that's how I do it. Those are my two, the bigaboos, the inhalers. I mean, I have people who claim they've never seen an inhaler. They wouldn't know what it even looks like if it was in front of them, and yet it pops up on the phone interview. And so it's just, there's no rhyme or reason to it. But that's why I prepare everybody, even when people say they've never been to a doctor or a hospital in the last 20 years. I'm like, well, it could still pop up. So I need you to be prepared for it. So I've seen it. And everybody, buyers are liars. So everybody's going to be lying to you if they're talking to you. But you can only deal with the information that's presented to you. And so you have to prepare them the way they tell you, but make sure that they do that, so you're not wasting your time with an interview just to get to the end and then say, oh yeah, I guess I had a little case of the COPD, and then the whole thing's gone. And so although it'll still get graded, so it's not gone, but you will have to have that awkward conversation of why the premium is more expensive now than it was before. But those are kind of my tips and tricks on the Trinity side of things. I don't know if you wanted me to touch any more on that, or
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And one thing to follow up with what he's talking about there. So inhalers is something that Trinity definitely pays attention to. And Gatlin, you're getting thumbs up and applause if you don't have your screen pulled up. And the other one that he's mentioning there, that nasal spray is commonly known as Narcan. And typically that's used for narcotic drugs, like for painkillers, right? Because people get hooked on these drugs. And typically when the insurance carriers see a Narcan on there, that's normally for drug users and abusers. And so they'll typically either decline them or downgrade them to a lesser quality plan. But nowadays, every doctor is typically prescribing the Narcan anytime they prescribe that pain med. And so what'll happen is even if the client may not be aware that this was even the case because they didn't get it filled with the prescription at the pharmacy, is that as long as if they've ever been prescribed the med, whether they picked it up or not, the RX check, the prescription check is going to show that information. And the reason, again, why that's important is because we're trying to differentiate, and Trinity is excellent about this. The reason why they ask, a lot of carriers will see Narcan, nope, you're out. Like they'll automatically, whereas Trinity will get on the phone, okay, they've got Narcan, what do you take that for? Oh, it's because my doctor prescribed it for, because I have this pain med, but I've never used it or I never got it filled or whatever the actual answer there is. The other thing that I want to cover with you briefly, Gatlin, is so the reason why I like having this conversation is because hearing it from an agent out in the streets compared to just hearing it from the carrier, oh, we're the best, like you're going to love us, like I think gives us a lot more insight, right? Because Gatlin has no vested interest in having you guys sell more Trinity, right? It doesn't do him any good or pay his bills or put Thai food on his table, but he still loves the carrier. A couple things or use cases when to use or why we want to use Trinity. Number one is because they're pretty much a price buster, meaning they're really going to be almost always the cheapest for healthy people. They're going to be almost always the cheapest option or carrier for those people. They have the highest persistency ratio of any carrier and final expense that I'm ever been aware of, right? I think it's in the neighborhood of the low 90s, when typically carriers like to aim for like 80% for them is typically good, where Trinity is always 90% or even better, which as an agent, that just means that you're going to have less people fall off the books. It's more sticky business, as we call it. A couple of caveats, though. As a telesales agent, when you would not use Trinity or Family Benefit, goes by different names depending upon which state it's located in. Like in Texas, it's Trinity. Here in Colorado, it's Family Benefit, right? Do I have that correct? Yeah, it's Family Benefit here. But the reasons why you wouldn't use it is, number one, it's not available in every state. The other part of that is every time you submit an application with Trinity, it requires a phone interview. That's what Gatlin was describing there, how he preps his clients even before they get on there, so they kind of know what to expect when we're going through that process. They require it, and so you can only sell Trinity Family Benefit if they are open. Otherwise, you need to transition to SBLI or another option where you can do like a text to sign or any of those other things, because you're outside of normal voice hours. So if you're calling on the 4th of July, if you're calling on Thanksgiving Day, or because any of those national holidays, their offices may be closed. And I'm sure Gatlin could tell us without even blinking, what are their normal office Monday through Saturday hours that the phone interview is available?
Monday through Friday, I want to say 8 to 8 Eastern. And then Saturday, I want to say 8 to 4 Eastern.
Got it.
Not Sunday, not open.
Didn't mean to put you on the spot there, but anything else, Gavin?
No, but I would double check on that. I would definitely double check. I'm not as strong. I'm not an early bird. So this early bird, I mean, I am an early bird, but not when it comes to sales. So my sales hours start about 10 Mountain times. That's about when I've never made a call earlier than that. So we'll have to double check on that if you're the morning callers on the East Coast, because I don't want my word to be held on that one.
Cool. Anything else to cover on Trinity, or?
I mean, just kind of touch base on what you said. Yeah, I have as of a couple months ago, the last time I got the numbers, I have the second largest book on file for the company. And I want to say that my 10, 11 year persistency is at like 60%. And so that's what, even over a long time, these clients stay on the books because, like Jason says, it's a price buster. So it's very hard for someone to come in behind you 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road and say, oh, I can get you the same policy for less, because it's very unlikely that that's going to happen. And so that stays on. And so not only that, when it's easy to deal with, like when a payment's missed and the client can just call and say, hey, just redraft that real quick without going through hoops and bounds or waiting on hold for 4 hours or getting sent to voicemail, or, all these companies have different, if you've been doing this long enough, you'll see, you try to call into some of the big guys to make a simple payment for a missed payment, you're on hold for 6 hours, where I've never been on hold with Trinity Family Benefit Life for more than 6 minutes. And so it's like, and normally it's an American answering the call right away.
Yeah, it's a massive difference calling Trinity. Think of Trinity Family Benefit as like a mom and pop final expense carrier. So when you call somebody like, oh, I'm going to talk to Rachel, or I'm going to talk to, like, who you need to talk to by name. Whereas when you call somebody like AIG, good stinking luck, my friend. You're going to be on there 20 minutes before you get a human on the phone. So that's another benefit that I love working with Trinity. Gatlin, I'm going to kind of throw you a curveball, something I didn't bring up before, but because of your experience, right? I think one thing I didn't bring up here, I think you were the original first recruited agent here at 360 Insurance Group, for just kind of for a fun side fact there. But during that has allowed you, I guess I would say, I'm sure you have seen tons and tons, hundreds, if not thousands of agents that have come into the business and gotten out of the business, telesales, face-to-face, or otherwise. And just curious if there was any insight that you can lean in here with the team, things that maybe you can, that they should be maybe prepared for, common pitfalls or chargebacks, or whatever it is that you feel that could be maybe valuable to help them extend their career by being prepared for these things before they happen.
Oh man, I think if I were to go back to a 22-year-old Gatlin who was just getting started, the thing I would say is don't ride the waves. Don't get high when you're selling everything you're touching, and don't get low when you've made 100 phone calls and haven't given a presentation. And so if you can figure out a way to just realize that all this is an equation. If you need to make more sales, you need to talk to more people. If you're happy with the amount of sales you're making, you're talking to the right amount of people. And so it's literally a math problem. If you need more sales, you get more people to talk to. That's all it is. And that's as simple as it is. If you can ride the lows, ride the highs, make it as even keel as possible, just know that if you say your script, if you're personable, if you're likable, if you're doing with good intentions, and you just do the numbers, you're going to make it. And like I said, you have to be putting in the practice though. If you're not making the sales and you're getting more numbers and still not making the sales, you need to record your presentation. You need to have 2 or 3 of the top salespeople you can get a hold of to look at your presentation and say, what do I need to tweak? What do I need to change? What do I need to do? And then if that's not working, you need to start looking at your rebuttals. What are the objections that are stopping me the most? I need to think about it. I want to talk to my kids. I need to look at my budget. What is it that you're having the most problems overcoming? And then talk to your mentors, the top salespeople around you, and find out how they overcome those objections, what rebuttals they use to do that, and then practice those until it's second nature. I'm never stumped when someone gives me a reason why they don't want to go through. There's never a situation where I'm just like, well, all right, that sounds right. It's never that case. I see what the rebuttal is or what the objection is, and I find the rebuttal that I think is going to work best. Does it work every time? No. But I'm not going to just sit there and keep getting, I want to think about it, and just saying, all right, have a nice day. I'm going to get to the root of it. All right, Miss Johnson, what exactly is you need to think about? And I just sit there and wait and let them tell me what it is. Well, I've been looking at a few different companies. I'm not sure what's best for me. Okay, what were the other companies? What were they, what were they offering you? And really get down to it. Oh, well, they said they were going to call me back. Okay, Miss Johnson, well, how about this? First, we don't know that you're approved for the policy. Let's first find out if you're approved. You can have something in writing sent out to your house. So if those people ever do call you back, you have written information that you can refer back to compare to see which plan's best for you and your family. Or I need to talk to my kid. Yes, Miss Johnson, I totally get having to talk to your kids. I'm a kid myself, and I like it when my parents ask my opinion on different topics. But let me ask you something, Miss Johnson. If you were to pass away in 2 to 3 weeks, and I was able to get them a check for the $10,000 that you were thinking about, I've been doing this 11 years. I haven't had one kid yet kick me off the front porch with that check for $10,000 or get mad that their mom or dad set that policy up. You think that's something your kids would get mad about if you were taking the time to protect them like that? No, I didn't think so. So how about this? Let's just first find out if you're approved. Let's get that application in. And if you do get approved, they're going to mail you out that policy. And that's really the best time to go to your kids, when you have a policy. Because right now, if you go to your kids, you're not going to remember everything that I just went over with you. You're not going to remember all the fine details and the minutes about the policy. But when you have a hard copy of the policy there with you, it will answer any and all questions that your kids could possibly have about this policy. So let's first find out if you're approved. And literally, I can do that with every single objection that they give me, because at the end of the day, an objection is just a way to get you to stop talking and get off the phone. So if you can figure out and answer those objections and ease their concerns in mind and get them to do the application, you're going to have a way better odds of that policy being on the books than if you're going to wait for them to call you back once they've talked to their kid, or once they've looked at their budget, or once they've thought about it or prayed about it. Oh, that's my favorite. I want to pray about it, Mr. Traub. All right, Miss Johnson, let's bow our heads and talk to the good Lord about this life insurance policy. Do you want to start, or you want me to start? And I'll sit there and have a prayer with them on the phone, okay? Because at the end of the day, they just need to do whatever they've wrapped their mind around to do to justify not doing the sale. And what you need to do is to ease their mind and get them comfortable with filling out that application process. Because at the end of the day, all these policies have a free look period. So they are not obligated to anything. They are not making a decision today. There is no decision to be made today. They are simply finding out if they can even get approved for a policy, and then getting it in the mail to read over and make a decision on. Think about, pray about, talk to their kids about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, no, I love it. One thing that I kind of brought up with one of the agents during a one-on-one. Oh, tons of hearts there, Gatlin. They're all loving that. They're eating it up. Okay, good. One thing that I mentioned to one of our agents in a one-on-one this week is we should all expect the no, meaning it's always going to be a no. Like literally our job is to take them from a no to a yes. Because if they were already a yes, they wouldn't be here today on the phone right now. If they were already a yes, we would be unnecessary. Like it is our job to be their guide and walk them through this process to help them understand their problem and how this is the solution to the problem, and making the connection. Like, I don't want my kid to pay for it. I don't want to die and leave this burden behind, or whatever the problem is, and connecting it. This is going to solve my problem. This is going to fix that, and putting those two things together. So just don't get caught on your heels. In other words, when you hear the no, it should be expected. Like you're going into a kung fu fight and you're expecting somebody, or MMA or whatever your favorite sport is, you're expecting somebody to throw a strike at you. Like that is going to happen. You should expect that. So good. So Gatlin, last thing I want to wrap up with, well, here, let's do this. I want to save your very favorite, or my very favorite, war story from the streets. We're going to tease that out to the very end of the call. One last thing I want to cover, Gatlin, if you can talk about, just kind of thought of this on the fly, is maybe describing We've been kind of talking about the typical presentation being, I've got one client, they're looking for a policy for themselves, and they don't have any existing coverage. Maybe describe the circumstances where it's somebody else shopping for their parent or there's a spouse, husband and a wife, like how you handle those deals. Maybe they got an existing policy and replacing it. Just any kind of tips or context or advice you can, outside of the typical one person shopping for themselves kind of a situation.
Okay, I think the one that I can probably bring the most value with is replacements. It's a lot harder over the phone. I'm going to give everybody that. So let's start there, because when I'm in a house and I can get my fingers, my greasy, sweaty little fingers on a policy, I'm in business, because it tells me everything that they don't know and they can't tell me. And so that's kind of a big step. So if somebody has a policy and you're on the phone with them and you can get them to find that policy, you're going to be in a lot better situation, because it's not just you telling them what you think. It's you telling them how to look at the policy and see what it tells them. And so the biggest one is Mutual Omaha. All right, I need you to go grab that policy for me. They sent it to you, right? All right. Let me see that policy. Bring it on out here. And so in your situation, you're just going to tell them to get it. Ms. Johnson, on the first page of that policy, what do you see in the biggest bold letters you can see? I see graded death benefit. Okay. Ding, 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 ding. Ding, 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 ding. I don't know if anybody else's dingers went off, but that's what I hear, and I get excited. And so bear with me 1 minute. I do apologize. Can you go see what he needs? All right.
Speaking of babies.
Yeah, exactly. Where was I? Refresh my memory there. Oh, graded death benefit. There we go. So the graded death benefit, when I see that, I get excited, because if they're healthy enough to get day one coverage, that's my in right there. And so, okay, Miss Johnson, how much coverage does it say? 10,000. How much are you paying for it? $50 a month. Perfect. All right. So tell me a little bit about your health. And then I go into their health to see if it's even worth having a conversation. Because if they say, well, I'm on oxygen and I got a little bit of the congestive heart failure or whatever it is, then, all right, maybe I'm just looking to add coverage onto that. We're not going to mess with that policy. But if she's like, well, I take a little aspirin and a little blood pressure, well, in that situation, I'm licking my lips happy, because I know my biggest thing to overcome this, well, that policy there says in the first 2 years, they just give you 110% of your premium back. With my policy, you're going to get the full death amount, or the full death benefit day one coverage. And that's how you attack that. So in my opinion, that's the best. The second best is if they've had a Lincoln Heritage or a Bankers. Some of these Cadillacs or Ferraris of the insurance world, where they're paying a ton of money for not a lot of coverage, I get really excited, because if they're healthy again, even if they've had the policy for 4 or 5 years, a lot of times with Trinity Family Benefit Life, I'm able to get them the same coverage, or even $1,000 or $2,000 more in coverage for what they're paying. But then I can say, go grab that policy real quick. Go down to year 5 on the 3rd page, where it shows your cash value build up. How much cash value does it say you have? Oh, $2,000? So what you're telling me, Miss Johnson, is I'm not only going to get you a $2,000 more policy for the same amount that you're paying now, but I'm also going to send you a check for $2,000. Goodness gracious, isn't it a great day? And I mean, that is the way to get that. It is easy. At that point, they are, do you need my routing and account number? Do you need my social? They're asking you what you need to help them get this done. And so that's really where the gold is if you can get somebody who has a policy, and I know it's not easy, definitely over the phone, but if you can get them to get it and get them to just look at it enough to give you the basics of that policy, you have a better chance of knowing if you can replace it, or if you should replace it, or if you should just be adding on to it.
Mm-hmm. Gatlin, how often
So,
would
go
you
ahead.
how often would you estimate what they think they have and what they actually have? Like how common is it for them to have those numbers wrong, whether it's the face amount or whatever it may be?
They very rarely know what they have if they don't have a policy. I mean, it just comes down to it. The thing they mostly know is how much they're paying a month, because they see that every month on their bank statements.
Mm-hmm.
What they normally are wrong about every single time is the amount of coverage, or if it's day one coverage or a two. They don't know that. They don't know how to look at it. They weren't told it over the phone. A lot of times these phone agents will say, I'm going to get you $20,000 worth of coverage, and it's a $10,000 whole life policy with a $10,000 accidental rider on it, which is not a $20,000 policy. And if anybody on the phone is hearing me say this and has been doing this, please change your ways, because it is a $10,000 policy. And if somehow, by the grace of God, an airplane goes down or a city bus blows up, yes, it would pay an extra $10,000, but don't sell it that way. It's just unethical. And what I said at the beginning is, the better your intentions are, the better your sales are going to be. It's a proven fact.
Yeah. I've seen it in multiple cases where somebody, like, literally, it's this much of a difference where they're like, oh yeah, I pay $67 a month with, Bankers Life, and I've got a $50,000 policy. And I'm like, 50? Like, that doesn't, like, we're talking final expense. Like, that makes me scratch my head. That doesn't sound very likely. And we look at their policy, and they literally in their head added a zero to the amount of coverage that they have. And it's like, nope, it's not 50, it's actually 5. Oh, well, heck.
Absolutely. Yep.
I can get you, for the amount that you're paying, I can actually get you 25,000 instead of the 5 that you actually have. And that is for sure a lay down deal from that part moving forward, if you're able to help them figure that out. So
it's that simple. Yeah, it's that simple. Like, literally the second, and that's why I say, even if they're confident about it, if you can convince them to just grab the copy and look at it, it'll give you a greater chance. Because when they're confident, I mean, the most confident person is an uninformed person. And I don't know why it works that way, but that's just how it is. And so, and if you try to tell someone like that, being a stranger on the other end of the phone, you're going to come up against it like rough sandpaper. But if you can get them to just simply go look at the paperwork, and if they see it, sometimes they can't. Sometimes these people are illiterate, and it's unfortunate, and there's nothing you can do about it. But you're going to have a way better chance if they're looking at their policy versus if they're just thinking off the top of their head.
Perfect. Any questions on anything we've covered so far today, guys, about like who we're talking to, the details of Trinity, how to do that phone interview, replacing a policy. One thing we talked about was the cash value of the policy if they have an existing one in place. Is any details or questions that we can cover before we let Gatlin go here? See if nobody's unmuting. Okay, cool. Then we will press forward. All right. We've teased it out long enough. Gatlin, I want to hear some war stories. I'll mention to anybody here, if you are somebody with weak constitutions, please go ahead and exit the call now, because you may hear some adult subject matter that you may not be prepared for, or maybe some unsavory conditions that you may not be prepared for. But Gatlin, hit us with your worst. Hit us with your favorite story from out in the field, out in the streets.
It's hard to wiggle down a favorite.
Okay.
I'm going to give you kind of some broad strokes. You always have I tell you, these people don't have air conditioning. So if they don't have air conditioning, it's not very likely they're sitting around their house in clothing. So there's a whole lot of answering the door with no clothes on. And those are always my least favorite appointments. But I found one that was more impressive than that. That'll make me turn around and not ask questions or get through the door. If you come to the door with no clothes on, you're very likely going to get me to turn around and walk away. But this lady in San Antonio had the all-time salesman repellent. She would, not only did she have a 8-foot fence around her entire yard in the middle of downtown San Antonio. But if I was brave enough, which at that point, 22-year-old Gatlin was brave enough to do about anything, to jump over that fence, she then had a front porch where she was feeding a family of skunks, not one skunk, not two skunks. It was in the range of 6 to 10 skunks that were on this lady's front porch, just eating food like it was cat food on the front porch. And so that's probably my all-time favorite salesman deterrent house. But one of my favorite stories of a sale I made that I always tell people,
a PG story, man. We're looking for the exciting stuff here.
yes. Well, the my favorite sales story that I ever made was also in San Antonio. I'm, again, very new to the business, very hungry, very broke. And so I would go absolutely any lead that had an address, I was there. And I went to this house right next to a trailer, or right next to a train track in downtown San Antonio, and the house was completely burned. You could see through the house. There was nothing there. And I mean, there was some burnt sticks, but other than that, you could see through it. But I wasn't deterred. I got out of the car. There was a family of street pit bulls that were just licking their lips like they haven't eaten in a while, and I looked pretty juicy. Luckily, I didn't have much meat on the bone, or they would have, if it was me today, they would have just had way with me. They would have been like, ooh, this guy tastes like Thai food. But back then, they were just looking at me as a chew toy, but I toughed it out. I start knocking on the door next to the house, and some nice gentleman comes to the door. I go, I got a lead at this house here next to you. Obviously, it's burnt down. Do you know if they still live there? If, where I could go to get it to them? And it just so happened it was the son of the guy who lived in the house. And he goes, yeah, that's my dad's house. It burnt down about 2 months ago. He's actually living in the shed behind it to the right. And I'm like, there's a shed back there? And he goes, yeah, just go back there and knock on the door. Again, I'm not going to say no. So I walk around this burnt house being followed by a pack of pit bulls, and I knock on the shed. And I do mean a shed, not a man shed or a she shed with windows and air conditioning. This was a pen metal shed, and he had made it into a studio apartment. It didn't have running water. It barely had electricity. And why am I knocking on this door to make a sale? But again, it's what you do. You don't assume, you don't think about it. You just talk to them as if they're a regular human being, because that's what they are. And sure enough, this man had his house burned down. He's simply waiting on the insurance check to come through so he can rebuild. He's a roughneck, so he can live in a shed and not care about it. And he ended up buying $160 a month policy. And as of today, 11 years later, it is still on the books. And so that's what I mean by you can't judge any situation, any person, if they're going to buy or not, because if you find their need that they need to buy it and you get them a good product that they like, it's gonna go through. So that's kind of my favorite sales story of dealing with. If you can imagine a tin shed in the summer of San Antonio, how hot that one was. But yeah, the smells, the dogs, the cat. I've been in a trailer that had over 50 cats, 50 cats inside of it. I mean, it is the smell. You can smell these houses from the road 50 feet out. Me and Jason went to an apartment complex one time. I told him I would never go back. I didn't know how we survived. We made the sale even, and I was simply gagging the entire time we were in there. So telesales is where it's at, because those are the things you don't have to do. You don't have to overheat. You don't have to get nauseous from the smell. You don't have to see ugly naked people. It's a really nice route to go.
All right, man. Well, thank you for sharing that, Gatlin. I was hoping that we could drag out one of those more rated R versions, but we'll save that maybe for next time. You got plenty of applause and hearts and everything from the team here. So thank you again, Gatlin. We greatly appreciate you and your advice and your insights. Looking forward to maybe having you back in the future. And I guess we're ready to jump on the phone, go tackle some deals. Gatlin, you heading out to the streets today?
Yes, sir. Got 11:30 appointment, and then I should have some pie after that waiting for me.
All right, my friend. You let me know when to meet you there. All right. All right, guys. Thank you for your time this morning, and thank you, Gatlin. And this call will be recorded. We'll put it onto our on school training platform so you can refer back to it. And you guys have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys next time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.